Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a story that's sending shockwaves even through Washington, Carney's strategic refusal that bypassed Trump's deal trap. While the EU, UK, and Japan rushed to sign trillion-dollar trade deals under heavy pressure, Canada took a completely different path. No signing ceremony, no last-minute compromises, just a firm no. If you want to stay ahead of the game and understand how this bold move could reshape global power, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's unpack what's really going on. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the like, because you don't want to miss any updates on these game-changing moves shaking the world's political and economic landscape. Now, let's get into the full story. What is Trump's deal trap? To fully understand why Canada's refusal is such a big deal, we need to first talk about what Trump's deal trap actually is. During his presidency, Trump aggressively pursued trade deals that heavily favored the United States. These weren't your typical agreements. Instead, they were designed to pressure countries into locking in terms that prioritized American manufacturing, tariffs, and supply chains, essentially cornering other nations into economic dependency. The strategy was simple but effective: sign the deal, or face isolation and economic consequences. This take it or leave it approach was a power move, forcing allies and trading partners to comply or risk losing access to the massive American market. The US was flexing its muscle, trying to dictate terms to the rest of the world. What made this strategy so impactful was the sheer size and influence of the US economy, which many countries depend on heavily for trade and investment. Refusing these deals could mean tariffs on goods, restricted market access, and severe damage to a nation's economy. In other words, Trump's deal trap wasn't just about negotiations, it was a strategic squeeze, forcing nations to align with US interests or face significant economic fallout. This high-stakes tactic left very little room for compromise, leaving countries with few viable alternatives outside of complying or risking economic isolation. How Canada broke the mold. Now, here's where things get really interesting. While the EU, UK, and Japan quickly bowed to this pressure and signed trillion-dollar deals, Canada did something almost unheard of in international diplomacy: they simply walked away. There was no last-minute deal, no public backpedaling, and no panic. Under the guidance of Carney, a key strategic leader, Canada took a stand. This wasn't a polite refusal or a delay tactic, it was a clear, calculated strategic refusal. They weren't just saying no to a deal, they were rejecting the entire premise of Trump's economic game plan. The message was loud and clear: Canada refuses to be trapped or cornered into agreements that compromise its sovereignty or future. This move shocked Washington. Many expected Canada to follow the lead of other allies, but instead, Canada showed it was ready to play a different game. This wasn't just defiance, it was a demonstration of newfound confidence and a commitment to long-term strategic independence. By taking this stand, Canada sent a powerful message to the world that it would not be rushed or bullied into deals that don't serve its best interests. This act has also inspired other nations to reconsider their own positions in the shifting geopolitical landscape. Carney's vision: building a new board. So, what is Canada doing instead? Carney isn't just saying no, he's building a whole new board with different pieces and new rules. This board involves some of the most forward-thinking and strategic moves happening right now. First, Canada is focusing on developing Arctic shipping lanes. With climate change accelerating the melting of Arctic ice, new shipping routes are opening up, routes that could cut shipping times between Asia, Europe, and North America dramatically. Controlling these lanes means controlling a critical piece of global commerce for decades. It also gives Canada significant geopolitical leverage, as the Arctic becomes an increasingly vital corridor for both trade and security. Second, Canada is making a long-term pivot in energy. Instead of doubling down on traditional oil exports, Carney is pushing investments in renewable energy, hydrogen, and natural gas. These energy sources are poised to dominate the future, and Canada wants to be a leader, not a follower. This transition not only supports global sustainability efforts but also ensures economic resilience as the world moves away from fossil fuels. Finally, Carney is working on forming new global alliances. These alliances won't rely on the goodwill of Washington or be dictated by American interests. Instead, Canada is reaching out to emerging economies, Arctic neighbors, and global partners who share its vision for sustainable growth and independence. This approach fosters a multipolar world where Canada can assert influence without being overshadowed by traditional superpowers. Why this matters for the US? Now, why should Americans care? Because this strategic refusal and new board building are real threats to Washington's influence. The US has long counted on its economic and political leverage to maintain global dominance, especially over allies like Canada. But Carney's moves mean the US could be sidelined in some of the most important future economic corridors and energy developments. If Canada controls the Arctic shipping lanes, that's a major shift in global trade power. Shorter, faster routes mean Canada could become a key gateway for international commerce, potentially diverting influence away from traditional US-controlled channels. If Canada leads the green energy revolution, the US risks falling behind in the clean energy race, a sector that will define economic and geopolitical power for decades to come. Washington is now faced with a challenge it didn't expect. One of its closest neighbors and allies is quietly but firmly building a future that bypasses American approval and influence. This quiet shift signals a potential realignment in North American power dynamics, forcing the US to reconsider how it engages with its neighbors if it wants to maintain its global leadership. Failure to adapt could result in lost economic opportunities and diminished geopolitical standing in a rapidly changing world where influence is no longer guaranteed by past alliances alone. What's really being built in the cold North? Beneath the surface, this isn't just about trade or energy, it's about reshaping global power. Carney's vision is a strategic play to position Canada as a global leader independent of traditional power brokers. The Arctic shipping lanes, opening faster than many predicted due to climate change, are a goldmine of economic and military strategic value. Whoever controls these routes can dominate international shipping in the coming decades, influencing global supply chains and military logistics in ways previously unimaginable. The strategic importance of these lanes goes beyond commerce, as control over the Arctic could also affect geopolitical stability and defense postures worldwide. At the same time, the shift to renewables and cleaner energy isn't just an environmental choice, it's an economic strategy. By investing heavily in hydrogen, natural gas, and renewables, Canada is future-proofing its economy against the inevitable decline of fossil fuels. These investments position Canada to be a major player in the global energy transition, attracting investment and forging new international partnerships. Together, these moves signal a Canada ready to take its place on the world stage, not as a follower of Washington's orders but as a leader in its own right, carving out a new path for economic growth and geopolitical influence in the 21st century. How long before Washington realizes it's been bypassed? The big question on everyone's mind is how long it will take for Washington to realize it's no longer in the driver's seat when it comes to Canada. This isn't just a diplomatic hiccup, it represents a fundamental shift in the way power is negotiated on the global stage. So far, the US reaction has been stunned silence, followed by attempts to pressure Canada back into the fold through diplomatic channels and economic incentives. However, Carney's strategic refusal shows no signs of wavering, and the momentum is clearly on Canada's side. This steadfast stance signals that Canada is confident in its alternative strategies and alliances, unwilling to return to a status quo that limits its sovereignty and long-term interests. If other nations catch on and start bypassing traditional US-led deals, we could be witnessing a major realignment of global alliances that challenges decades of American dominance. Washington might soon face a world where its influence is less certain, and new centers of power emerge in unexpected places, reshaping global politics, economics, and security in profound ways. The question now is not if, but when, the US will have to adjust its approach to remain relevant in this rapidly changing landscape. So, what do you think? Is Carney's bold refusal a brilliant move that could reshape global power, or is Canada risking too much by walking away from traditional deals? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this is the kind of discussion we need to have. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more deep dives into global politics, economics, and power plays. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.